Hi, I'm Gee Charman and welcome back to my series of bridal bites. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to cook pulled pork with summer coleslaw and apple compote. It's a dish that is sure to delight. So this pork takes quite a while to cook and there's two stages. The first one is very long and slow. So what I've got here is a piece of belly pork with the rind still on that's been scored, and this will help get it nice and crispy. And I'm going to pop that in a roasting tray. If you've got a little rack, then all the better because it can sit on that, but it doesn't matter if it's just in the tray like this. Now what you want to do is get rid of as much moisture as possible from the skin, and that will help you get really good crackling. So I'm just going to pat it dry with a bit of kitchen paper. And then the next stage of getting the crackling really good is salt. So I've got sea salt. If you use the fine table salt, it sort of penetrates into the cracks and it becomes very salty, the meat itself. So you want coarse sea salt flakes. And then to add a little bit of aniseedy flavour, I've got fennel seeds. So what I'm going to do is just mix those two together. And then I'm just going to sprinkle and push them into the pork. Now this is the first layer of flavouring for this dish. Later on we'll be cooking it in a marinade to make it nice and sticky like traditional pulled pork. So that goes on, and just press it in, and it's as simple as that. Now this will go into an oven set at 220 to start with. In a jug, mix together the tomato sauce, brown sugar, mustard, Worcester sauce and stock. After 3 hours of cooking and the pork is tender, pour the marinade into the dish and cook for a further hour. Pork and apple are a marriage made in heaven, so I'm going to show you a quick little cheat. If you want to, you can make your own apple sauce from scratch with Bramley apples, but if you're short of time, I'm going to show you how to jazz up shop-bought apple sauce. It's a bit of a cheat, but needs must at times. So in a saucepan, I'm going to put a little bit of butter. So the butter is melted, and I'm just going to add a little bit of cinnamon. And what you want to do is just cook this for about 30 seconds. So now to that, I'm going to add our jar of apple sauce and warm it through and give that a mix in. And while that's warming through, I'm going to chop up a Granny Smith apple. Now the great thing about this is you can do this 4 or 5 days before your wedding. Put it in a sealed container and then it's all ready to serve on the day. What you want them to do is cook through very slightly, but because they're an eating apple, they won't turn to mush like a Bramley. Add a stir and allow it again to warm through, just to cook the apple very slightly. So once that's all warmed through and your Granny Smith apple is just slightly cooked, you can pop it in a Tupperware container or a jar and leave it in the fridge ready for your wedding day. In a large bowl, mix together the mustard, honey and a little bit of oil. Give it a good mix before adding in the white wine vinegar to loosen it. Stir in the remaining olive oil and season with salt and pepper. Add in the white cabbage, red cabbage and fennel. Then add a good handful of chopped parsley. Mix everything together, cover in cling film and place in the fridge. So the pork is now cooked and it's had an hour cooking in the sauce. And I'm just going to take it out. It's still hot, but I've left it to sit for about 10 minutes so that I don't burn myself. And as you can see, the crackling's nice and crackled and the sauce here has really reduced and become nice and thick. Now it's a slightly tricky part. You need to take off the crackling. You can just pull it without removing the crackling, but I like to serve the crackling sort of on the side. So get a knife underneath the layer and it should then just start to pull off, and you can just ease it away with a knife. And if it breaks up, that's also fine, because you're going to break it up into bite-sized pieces that people can help themselves when they're getting all their other bits. So the crackling's off, last little bit, and you can really smell the fennel seeds. And I'm going to cut that with a very sharp knife. Sometimes with crackling, if you turn it over the other way, it's easier to cut. Again, if you get pork belly and you're desperately trying to get it in, the meat's coming away, if you turn your piece of pork belly over and cut the crackling skin side down, then it helps. So these are now all in nice bite-sized pieces. And then the next bit, you just want 2 forks and you just want to literally pull the pork. Now once that's all nice and pulled and stringy, I would take some of the sauce from the pan and just drizzle it over it. Because it's reduced so much, it's nice and rich in flavour, but you don't want too much of it. Pulled pork is definitely not the prettiest of things, but I have to say I bet this will be one of the first things to go. And there you have it, a delicious addition to your wedding buffet. If you've liked this recipe and want to see more, why not give us a like on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next week.